to another of our episodes of the NCC Workshop News. And today we are going to talk about this again, actually. And we are...
This is planned part 3 of 3, but we need to tell you it is part 3 of 4.
Yes, something came up.
Wonderful things happened.
So it is actually Mark Miller who came up. So we reached out to him.
He was with us partly all time with this wonderful Splitlath EBR 1190 RS.
In thought,
yeah.
So we reached out to him and asked him if he would like to just answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, a couple of... I prepared some questions, and when the girls looked through my questions, they really asked me if I'm a little bit crazy. But I said,
You'll see.
Well, I said, Mark is a cool guy, and he know the people want to know the things, and they have questions, and so yeah, I challenged him, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, so Mark and Oana, his wife, are also stuck at home, so they really put in some thought and heart into both asking and answering our questions.
We really got we got sent some. They sent us really some amazing good material from California.
Yes, and also they put in a lot of thought also, and the outcome is really amazing. And he also had a thing with his team shirts.
Yeah, I've seen T-shirts or shirts. I haven't seen like this Corbin shirt from 1998 from the original Buell the series with a Buell tube frame with the S1. It's so cool.
It is really. So what we thought, challenge accepted. So.
Yeah.
So, we are going to see if we can match that.
Yeah, it's there will be Oana. She asks a question.
Yes.
So
it will be like a little bit of a back and forth, and they will they will ask the questions and answer them, and then we will have a little bit of a talk about what they just said.
Yeah, we also have a full onboard, this time really live from Mark. It's material we didn't have last time, so you can join Mark on a full lap, full 19 minutes, 18 something around the mountain course. It will be a quite long video. I guess it will be even longer than an episode of Castle Rock.
Yeah, but not as long as Stargate.
No, unfortunately not. But yeah, so let's go to Oana and listen.
We give the word to Oana and see what they will have to say.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Oana Miller, and Jens has sent over some questions for Mark to answer. So since we're stuck together at home for COVID-19, Mark asked me to read them out loud for him. So here we go. Question 1 of 6. You started competing in 2006 for the first time at the Isle of Man TT. Years earlier, you had a good career in the AMA, but you had retired. Real road racing is not a very American sport, and the Isle of Man is halfway around the globe. How did you get the idea to compete there? And how did you finally get a chance to race there?
Hi, it's Mark here. I'm here with my wife Oana, and I'm going to answer some questions from Jens. And welcome to our home. It's during the COVID thing, so we're kind of locked down, and we're making a small effort to answer the questions with a little bit of variety of environments and such. So, I first was aware of the TT quite young, like everybody, with some VHS tapes or a coffee table book around the house. You know, being from the States, it's not a huge thing. You don't really see it everywhere. But every time you did get to see it, you'd fixate on it. Like, what in the heck is that? Where they're going through the trees and the pubs and the sidewalks. And it was always something that I just thought, if there was any way, you know, that was for me. Like, that's the one thing that I would do in a heartbeat if I was ever given the opportunity, but I didn't know anything about it and how to get there. So I started to, when I started racing in the AMA, I eventually started riding for Chuck Graves at the Graves Yamaha squad. I was his first ever AMA Pro rider. We won a race that year. And racing the 1000cc new R1 that was back, in the late 90s or something like that. So he had been going to the Macau Grand Prix for a few years and had asked me to go. And I said yes, and I went to the Macau Grand Prix and finished 4th in my first try because I was riding the same badass Yamaha R1 that I had been all year in the AMA. It's at the end of the year. And at the end of that, I was approached by, I think it might have been the second or third year I did the Macau, but at Macau, I was approached by a liaison for Paul Phillips and the TT organization that handed me a business card and says, hey, we're going to be inviting more international riders from around the world to the TT. Would you be interested in coming to the Isle of Man TT? And I had gotten third at that point at the Macau Grand Prix, so I had a tiny bit of pedigree and showed that I wasn't too adverse to riding on the road. So they said, what would it take to go? And I said, I gave them just off the top of my ass what it would take for me to go to the TT for the first time. They agreed to the terms, and the next thing you know, I was flying over there to have a look at the track and go around it with Milky in the van, and eventually we had the big press launch. And the next thing I knew, I was placed on the Taz Suzuki team for the first year, which was in 2006. And when I very first saw the circuit, when I got to the island, I said, no way, I can't do it. It's too narrow, it's too bumpy, it's too crazy. Don't do it. Like I kept telling myself, when you get back home and you forget, how much fun you had and stuff, don't agree to this. Don't do it. But I did exactly the same thing as I went home and I started to think about it again and how fun it could be. And I agreed to do it. And I'm so glad I did, because once you get out there and I start studying the tapes of David Jeffries in the 2002 onboard, which is one of the first ones ever, that's Guy Martin chasing Michael Dunlop, of course, as everybody knows. We did it. We survived it. Did good the first year. Did over 118 the first year, which was not too bad on a bone stock 750 GSXR. And that's it. So that's the story of me getting over there for the first time, and I have been there, as you know, since 2000. I went for 11 years, 13 fortnights, because I did 2 classics. So that's the answer to your question. Started at Macau, got invited by the TT, and went and did it, and was able to kind of snowball into doing it longer. And actually, it's been the greatest thing, of course, in my life, because it was taking the street riding that I was doing since I was 15 all the way to through the professional stuff of the short circuits to ending up back on the streets again. So I started on the streets as a hooligan idiot, went racing, did pretty good in the AMA, had some fun, and then migrated over to the roads for that. So that's it. Answer number 1.
So it started all in Macau.
It did.
Yeah. Well, so from no precisely from the road, from the
hooligan, right?
So he was a hooligan rider, made it to Macau, and from there to the TT.
That is impressive.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's look for the next one.
Yeah. See what they have to say.
Okay. Question number 2.
2 of 6. Overall, you had 49 Isle of Man TT race starts. You came to the island for 11 years to put your life, your health, and your reputation on the line. You never got seriously hurt, but you lost friends and have lived the dilemma between taking risk, staying alive, and achieving a good result. Riders in road racing are modern gladiators, celebrating an archaic event at the risk of being on the list of fallen heroes at the evening count. We all admire you for your courage and skills. We get goosebumps just from watching when you go into the arena for us. Now, with some distance from racing the TT, can you explain why you and your fellow riders do it? Racing the most dangerous race.
So question number 2, we've got the second EBR team shirt on, so we're going to mix it up with a little bit of variety. It is the most dangerous thing in the world for sure. I mean, what other sport do you have like 3 fatalities a year? I got close once in 2009. I had a bad off, had a tank slapper over Aggo's Leap into Quarter Bridge, and it just ripped out of my hands, and I slid backwards, just missing a tree that I could see in the distance. As I was coming off the bike, there was a pole, a telephone pole, and I'm like, we're going to hit the pole. I missed the pole like by 6 feet, and the bike that I was just riding, it's starting the 6th lap, I think, of 5th or 6th lap of the senior. I was in 7th place in the senior, and the bike hit the pole that I thought I was going to hit and die, but I missed the pole, and the bike was in 4 pieces, and it was absolutely the scariest thing on the planet for me. It's the scariest thing that I had ever done. I thought that was it. I'm done. I finally did it. I finally found a way to kill myself on these motorcycles, but I luckily got away with it. But I have lost a lot of good friends over there, and it's so serious, and every one of them is not a number. It's a person with a family and everybody that cares about them, and I really miss them all. I had my teammate killed right before at the Northwest 200, and a good friend of mine, Paul Shoesmith, of course, David Jeffries. I mean, the list is so weird because you start thinking about a list. You're like, oh, if I wrote them all down, it's retarded. It's ridiculous how many guys we've lost at the TT, even since I've been doing it. I mean, Yoshi, Dobbsy, like it goes on, and Dan Neen. Again, there's like 30 more. I don't want to miss anybody, so I don't want to go down that road of naming them. But there's been endless numbers, and a few at Macau as well, to be fair. Why we do it? I think that the only way to really answer that is that if it's happening, if the event is happening, if that type of thing is happening, and you migrate to it and claw and steal to do it, you're doing it because it calls to you. It's not something that you are kind of like, oh, you're being asked to do it and you don't want to do it. It's more that you have to do it because you ride the bikes. You have this knack for it, you have the experience and the expertise, and that becomes like the greatest challenge of all because it's 0 error for 2 weeks and up to 6-7 races in the fortnight. And to be able to accomplish that, it kind of gives a little bit extra meaning to your life because we're not all able to be astronauts. We don't all get to go to the moon and step on the moon for the first time or be in a NASA program or do fighter jets and test these things. Like I would love to have done that too. And I actually went down that road. I went to university to do that at the beginning, and I got kicked out of the Air Force program for having too many speeding tickets. So I went back to the first thing I wanted to do, which is to race something, and I found a way to do it because I didn't know how to do it before that. But I didn't know how to go to school to be a pilot. So anyway, we digress. Doing the TT, it gives you the ultimate challenge, and it has a lot of risk, and it has a lot of therefore it's incapable of bullshit. We're so full of shit these days. Everything is so nonsensical, and everybody makes a big deal about dumb, idiotic things. When you're on that course like that, and you got the visor down, and you got the fingertips, you've got your destiny in your fingertips. It gives you a very good sense when you get done with it that you have accomplished something and you've put yourself at risk. And the only downside is that one, you're being very selfish, and everyone who loves you could lose you, and so you're very selfish in that way. And you really miss the friends that have fallen, really miss them. And it's very important that we never forget, and we always respect the loss and the gravity of that because it's so permanent. And every Christmas, and every birthday and every stuff, he's missing from that, and that never stops. So it's romantic to say, oh, we've had 300 deaths. It's okay, fine, but it's also real. It's very real, and it's very unfortunate that so much risk. It takes so much risk to get to check that kind of box to fulfill your personal desire to do good at something that has some meaning to it. And that's the answer of number 2.
Wow. Finally we heard a rider really telling us what at least I expected all the years. You do it because you love to do it and you want to set your mark.
Yeah. And I actually appreciate it also that he says that it is a little bit a selfish thing, because you don't only put your own life on the line, but you also have your family, your friends, and everyone around you who might lose somebody. And I think that's also important to think about.
Yeah, but at the end, all race riders I met in my life who are successful, who are fast, they are selfish. They're the nicest guys in the paddock, but in the moment you put them on the bike and they go out, well, not only to survive, they also
want
to win. Exactly.
Yeah, and if you're Mr. Nice Guy and let everyone pass, then you're not gonna win, I guess.
No. So really a special breed of persons, of men who go out there.
I could never do that.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, so let's talk technique.
Yes, that was a difficult topic. Let's talk technique.
But thanks for answering it so honestly. Really appreciate that. Yeah, let's go technique. I say since many years, since the earliest days, a Buell makes you fast. Let's see what Mark have to say about that.
We'll see.
So question 3 of 6. In 1911, for the first time, an American brand, Indian, won the TT with local rider Oliver Cyril Godfrey. It took another 99 years before it happened again when you won the 2010 TT Zero race on Michael Siz MotoSiz E1 PC. Michael was like Eric, a visionary engineer doing things his own way. You studied aeronautic science. Given your scientific background, do you have an extra technical interest in special construction details on the motorcycles you race?
Question number 3, was there some technical neatness of the reasons of being behind that, and also was I appreciative of both Michael Siss's work and Eric Buell's work? And the answer is absolutely 100% positively yes. I did go to university for 5 years to do some aeronautics and stuff like that. My dad's an aerospace engineer, and he's always done like high-speed remote-controlled hydroplanes that are scaled to what his childhood boats were around Seattle, Washington. And then he moved on to train sets, and like you're playing God, where you're meticulously making train sets with every little tiny detail of his hometown type of thing. So yeah, when I got a little bit older and I started getting introduced first with the older Buell, and then later on seeing that Michael Sis did this MotoGP bike with like rotating crankshafts or something and all of this crazy stuff. And then I understood that he was looking for somebody to do the electric thing, and that my name was put forward, and he got in touch. And at first I'm like, I don't want to race an electric bike, it's going to be lame. And then I saw some of his designs, and I was like, this guy's got the shit. Like, he's the real deal. And the only concern I had is going down Bray Hill for the first time ever as a test pilot, again being a test pilot, which is not a bad job, and it takes a little risk. You have to trust entirely in not only your crew or the manufacturer of whatever bike, whether it be the Aprilia or the EBR. Now it's somebody's one-off carbon fiber chassis with 600 pounds of lead in it, full of batteries and crap. And I got to go down there at 140 miles an hour and go into the bottom of Bray Hill. Can you imagine if it just went, you're like, my bad, the forks fell off, So it was definitely a little bit of a trust thing in Michael Sis. And later with the EBR, because it's exactly the same thing. It's a one-off, a very smaller manufacturer. And I had all the faith in the world with Eric, because he'd been doing it for a long time, and the RS and the RX, those the 1190s and whatnot, those were kind of like the culmination of his baby, like when he was let loose to do whatever the heck he wanted without the restraints of being either with Harley Davidson or some of the other models that were come up for years and years and years before I came around to race them at the TT. By the time I did come around, that bike was pretty special, and you could see it. Like at first I'm like, oh gosh, we're gonna go on an EBR. Might be fun, also being an American brand and an American rider at the TT, which has so much history. in it in so many different ways. So to be a small part of that would be cool. But once I saw the bike up close and I really sat down, I remember it in the paddock at the TT, I sat down, maybe it was at Macau, it was the first time I rode it. I sat down and I just started looking at all the welds and the radiators and the exhaust pipes and the swing arm, and the fuel was inside the frame and the single rotor on the front wheel. And I thought, you know, why not try it a little different? Why not think outside of the box, just like Michael Siss did? Eric Buell was kind of saying, well, you know, I have different ideas of how these solutions could be accomplished. And the first time I rode it at Macau, the EBR, was a mind blower, because the corner speed on the thing, the entrance, the way the thing with the gyro and the fuel around the engine and all the center of gravity, and I don't know what his wheelbase is and that kind of stuff and the geometries was, but the first thing I remember, first practice, probably first lap, second lap of the riding an EBR for the very first time, came out of a corner, and of course it had all this beautiful mid-range and everything, kind of wheeling and fun. I'd go into the corner and I almost ran into the back of another rider because of the corner speed that it had. And Michael Rudder said a similar thing in an article much later. He said the exact same thing. The amount of corner speed that the EBR has, especially in the entrance, it's just like it's like why is everybody farting around? Like let's go, because that thing would just, and I know that had to do probably with the single rotor and everything that had to do with everything. Anyway, point is, I was always proud to be a part of the Siss thing and the EBR thing, and so was my dad. In the end, he was also stoked that it wasn't just another Honda, BMW, that kind of thing. And we did the Aprilia before that, to be fair, because of the V4 and the sound and everything. And I had come into the TT thing a little older. I had already done a bunch of other stuff, and so I was more than willing to kind of do some niche things that worked differently, sounded differently. A lot of the fans were very interested in having new things out there. You know, people say, "Oh man, every time we can hear you coming on the EBR for 2 miles, 3 miles away," and sure enough, it gets louder and louder, and you know, they were saying a lot of people would say that. So it was kind of cool. Just to be on something a little different, because certainly we would have been able to go probably a bit more competitive if we stuck with the BMWs or the ZX10s, where you have all the notes and all the factory backing and all this stuff. We were developing the EBR on our own, and that's another thing. I really hats off to John Dimbulo, because he always wanted to be involved in something that was different, and he put in a lot of effort and a lot of time and resources to try to get the notes that we needed to slowly progress, and we did. You know, we right to the end, we nearly put all the pieces of the puzzle, and we would have been probably capable of doing 130 on that bike. So it was a great journey. It was a great time, and I'm definitely it was a big part of it to have all the engineering around the unique engineering. That was a big part of it. The extra fun for me.
Wow.
Yeah. That exactly put it to the point.
Yeah, but we got the same comments when we were racing. Do you remember?
Each serious rider who step on a Buell, and especially since the ZDL brakes are there, they go lines before they thought they would never exist. Literally, sometimes they really go around the other riders, and with the ZDL brake you can brake so much deeper into the corner and still be able to have full control about your front, that it is really a game changer, this brake system. And there were times I really thought it was only us and Eric who believed in this brake. And
I mean, we had a rider who tried out one of our bikes, and he said, "I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I really want to, but I cannot trust the brake, and I will always be slow because it's just not my thing."
Yeah, and other were going close to lap records on this brake system.
But it is very special.
Yeah, and before we come to the next question, to finish the technical thing, if we would have a world without traction control, where only mechanical traction would be on the table, and only the genius of a chassis construction would count, and you would have no electronics to put the power on the ground, the EBR 1190 would be still the leading chassis. And but well, time's changing, so
on to the next question.
And there we go now, really back in time.
Yes, right?
Back to the tube framers.
Yes.
Question 4 of 6. In 1998, you competed in the AMA Pro Thunder Championship on a Buell. How was that back then? And had you ever, back then, thought that one day you would be the factory rider competing in Macau and at the TT with Eric's bikes?
Thank you, babe. Hey, question 4, I think? Yeah. This is the old shirt. Got another shirt out. This is the actual shirt I haven't worn since I was probably in my early 20s. I rode for Eric Buell in 98, I think it was, because I was riding for Chuck Graves, and somebody approached me and says, hey, Eric Buell would like you to test a bike at Willow Springs. And I thought, well, it's a Buell. I don't know anything about Buells. Aren't those Harleys or something with different chassis? And that's my boy, the Ram from, I don't know if he's from Scotland, but I raced him in Scotland. But so Eric, Motorcycle Online, which I think is on my back maybe, they were asking if I would be willing to race this, the Buell in Pro Thunder or something. And I thought, well, I don't really need to, do I? Like, why would I exactly? And he says, well, we're renting a motorhome. Brent Plummer, is it Brent Plummer? Is the right name? He rented a really badass motorhome, and he says, we'll have the motorhome at the track and stuff, and And so I asked Chuck Graves if I could do it, and he says, yeah, I don't give a shit. So the first time I actually saw the bike, it was actually I think you'll be able to insert a photo of it. I'm very, very young, but they got like fairings off a 250 GP bike or something. It was this beautiful wraparound thing. And I thought, man, that thing looks pretty trick. It was all yellow and glossy. And I think it had Performance Machine chicane wheels on it, the polished aluminum ones that Roland Sands and his dad Perry were making a lot of back then, Perry Sands. And I said, okay, maybe this won't be so bad, because I was thinking it may be a little bit clunky or something. I was sort of I'm doing the thousands and the Japanese stuff, and I'm going places, Why do I want to ride a Harley? But much to my surprise, I sat on the thing, and we started it, and it went, blah! Like it exploded. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is not a bike for pussies. This is actually a bike for riders with balls, and it had nothing to do with anything other than whoever stuck this freaking, I don't know how big it was, but it might have been a 1200cc. I think it had the Wiseco pistons and the Pankel rods and the whole 9 yards back then, which is probably like the trickiest Harley Davidson engine parts that you could get. All I know is I just blipped the throttle and got a hard on. Like it was just vibrating, and I was like, Jesus, yeah, dude. This is all right. So I put it in gear, and I just remember rolling out. It had kind of a funky gear, but it had a full long gearbox and all that weird stuff, and kind of put it in gear, and I just and I just like grabbed the throttle, a little bit of throttle, and just wheeling. I'm like, I'm like, whoa, dude, this is gonna be all right. So they'd put a front end, I think, off of a Suzuki or something, and like there was a really decent little chassis setup. Anyway, I think we went out to Daytona, and we qualified either on pole or a top 3 or something, and it was running really good. And we had some reliability issues that year, maybe because one, we're riding it on, we're road racing the thing in ways that may not have been entirely designed to do. It might have had a little bit less state of tune, would have been slightly more reliable. But I also was probably revving the thing like maybe, I don't know if more than it should or something, but I tried really hard to pay attention to the revs, but we did have a couple mechanicals. But we had a lot of fun. We were racing guys like Sean Higbee was doing well on another Buell, and Curtis Adams was on a Triumph Triple, and I think he won most of them. The Triumph Triple had a little more top speed, a little bit higher revs in it, but we had a good time of it, and I got to stay in the motorhome at all the AMA races that year. So Motorcycle Online and Eric Buell. Those are some good memories. Long time ago, as you can see, we're a little bit older now, just a tiny bit. But yeah, so that's the answer to number 4. TT?
Did you ever imagine
did I ever imagine I was going to race it as factory? Actually, no. I never in a million years thought that Eric Buell would be a full circle some shit, it must have been 20 years later or something like that. All of a sudden they said EBR again, and I had seen some pictures of it, and I saw the full carbon fiber, 1190 that came out, and I'm like, whoa, he's come a long way from our Harley Davidson Pro Thunder bike, and good for him, like good on him, like that's pretty cool that he's stuck with it. And I knew he had kind of like some of the chains, the shackles taken off. It was my understanding that he got more freedom after the Harley Davidson thing, supplying engines was no longer there, and he was able to get Rotax, which is an Austrian engine and also badass. I've got one in my Aprilia Tuono right now, and just a great package, and he was able to do his own chassis and everything. So yeah, badass. A lot of fun. It's actually one of the most fun motorcycles I've ever ridden is Eric Buell's EBR 1190. I think it's called an RS. It just is a lot of fun. The only thing it lacks is the highest top speed, but you don't win races on top speed. You win races on acceleration and handling. And I think in the hands of the right people, and maybe better than me, and on short circuits, and with maybe some good electronics that are on par with some of the newest stuff, that keeps it from wheeling, because it's obviously it likes to wheelie, which is fun, but it kind of gobbles up lap time. It's just if you ever watch this onboard lap from whenever it was 14, you may not be able to see it with just glancing at it, but if you really watch, the front end is off the ground half the time. It's literally floating on the tip, because the bike was so torquey and had so much prone to wheelie, and it was so nimble and so much fun. But we could have used a little bit of electronics. On the Aprilias the years before, on the V4s, we had to turn the electronics off because they would get confused. When you got airborne, the sensors didn't understand why the rear wheel was spinning so much faster, and why, so it shut off, so you'd go off the jump, and they would shut off, and then you'd like, oh my God, I'm going to go right over the bars. So later on, I think BMW and a couple other brands started to tweak the TC, the wheelie control and everything, so that it understood that it's going to get airborne a couple times per lap at the TT track specifically. But we didn't have that level of electronics yet. But I think had it continued, honestly, it would have been unbeatable. The bike is incredible. I really enjoyed the EBR a lot. It's actually my most fun bike on a twisty track. And that is the answer to number 4, I think, this time, for sure.
No, the circle of race.
No, that's just too
I can't miss that.
That's a dad joke.
No, but
Yes,
it really, when you see he came from Buell and from Pro Thunder.
Well, before that he came from the streets like a hooligan, remember?
Yeah, right. As so often, the real hooligans earlier or later get on a Buell.
Yeah.
That was in 1998.
Yeah,
right?
when I went to 2nd grade.
2nd grade, okay.
Yes, when I was like this tall, probably.
There was a time of the Buell S1, and that is from us, back from then, the original factory.
The boy
felling.
Racer.
Yeah, and out of the boy racer, for us, was then later the Tor's Hammer bike with okay. We're just filming.
We're filming, mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Come back later.
Where we were.
Thor's Hammer.
Tor's Hammer, yeah. That was a bike with the 2 carburetors.
Yeah.
And
it was baby blue.
Yeah, and after we raced that one, we promised we will forever use fuel injection because his 2 carburetors never really worked. So what is next? Next question.
The next question is a good question.
I think
we will find out.
Yeah. Next question.
Question 5 of 6. You worked with John Dimbelow and Splitlath Racing for a fairly long time together, 6 years, for the Isle of Man TT and the Macau Grand Prix. You started in 2011 on the Aprilia RS V4 before the team switched to the EBR 1190 RS, and you stayed together till your retirement in 2016. Can you tell us a bit about that relationship?
So question number 4 is, how did I get hooked up with Splitlath and John Dimbelow? Well, I don't remember how it started, but I can tell you that once I met the man and I got to know the man, I realized that he was a scoundrel just like me, and I didn't have enough scoundrels in my life, so I wanted to continue that relationship. But John's great. John has given his heart and blood and soul and finances to be able to be a part of the Macau Grand Prix and the TT, and he was able to, organize lorries and multiple motorcycles with the matching carpets and the matching livery and all that kind of stuff. And it's been really cool to sort of like have that guy become a family member. And we've traveled all over the world together. We had a lot of the same crew, a lot of the same time, and we just kept adapting as everything kept changing. We kept changing with it, and it's really a shame that we didn't get a little bit more final success. Although we did have a lot of good success and a lot of good times. We always seemed like we were just seconds away from actually putting. Oh, I'm dead. I promise I'm better than this than I look. Okay. Anyway, so I want to say big thanks to John for everything that he's ever done or given to the Splitlath program, the EBR program, and we're friends for life. And I think that the fate of EBR and Eric Buell, we were really trying to help that succeed, and life goes on. We're all doing the best we can here, and we've had a lot of good times along the way. So all the best to Eric, and all the best to John, and to everybody else that's been involved with this little journey of ours. And thanks everybody. It's been fun, and a lot of that is because of John DiBellow's part.
I think without John DiBellow's involvement with Splitlath Motorsport, it would not even happen the last year of EBR racing in 2016. Yeah. And
he was a very driving force, as you say.
Well, he was also very happy and proud to be finally the factory race team. Yeah. And when you see what they achieved, not only on the Isle of Man, also in Macau, but also what not many really realized in China when they raced there. Yeah. That for me, this is one of these unused opportunities, because that would have been in real the moment where EBR need to really push hard to find a partner in China to sell bikes there, to establish there. For me,
well, could have, would have, should have.
Yeah, but all over, it is really the Buell story is in a way a little bit also the story of the close but no cigar. It was so often so close. Also on the TT, when you remember the story of the fuel line between the main tank, it was too small, and then the clutch failed, an oil problem, piston rings. Something. So it's a little bit a pity, but at least it brought us a lot of technology, what we still use till today, where we still learn from, and let's see what we make out of that in the future, and also what
we are still unpacking things that we had no idea actually were existing.
From when we moved the Team Splitlath inventory and the bikes here to us in Sweden.
We have boxes over boxes over
boxes. It was a full truck. So we will see. We still hope that some of these bikes get in good hands of some people who might use them on some club sport level racing. So they're still
looking for a good home.
Bikes looking for a good home are still available. So we come to the last question. Yeah. So number 6.
Question 6 of 6. You are the most successful American Isle of Man TT racer.
Woohoo!
You won a TT race on the US brand Moto Sizz, and Only technical gremlins held you and Splitlath back from bringing home a good TT result with Eric Buell Racing 1190 RS made in East Troy, Wisconsin. Can you tell us what you think, what specific challenges there are in the U.S. regarding the sports bike market? It seems that no American manufactured brand can make it.
Oh, yeah, I'll answer that in 1 second. Thank you, baby. For our final, sixth question, I am probably not the greatest person to ask as to why a manufacturer of motorcycling is difficult to survive in the States. I can only guess that it's a monumental undertaking to have all the supply chains and to have all the dealership networks to be able to, get out there with enough places so that people can go and look at the products and sit on the products and get the things serviced and get parts for the products. You're competing with people that have had a head start, let's say, I think since, when was it? Like turn of the century? Maybe they were bicycle manufacturers and then they turned into scooter manufacturers and then motorcycle manufacturers. Honda and the rest have been around a long time. I think 30s, 40s, something like that, maybe before. Don't know. But it just can't be easy to do. And I think that when you're competing against all of the labor markets and all the different kinds of costs, to make something as unbelievably awesome as the EBR products were more recently, I think that comes with a pretty the difficulty to keep the retail price competitive. The German stuff, the high-end German stuff, the high-end Japanese stuff, everybody's paying a premium. What does a motorcycle cost these days? A really good one, like almost $30,000 for a top-shelf sport bike, something like that. If not, it's like mid-25s. I think it's over 25 grand. Anyway, not sure if the margins are there to have an American brand. If you can make it in Wisconsin, it might come with slightly higher costs for not only expertise and personnel and engineering and R&D, but possibly for the standards of like environmental concerns and different things, meeting different kind of air quality and different kind of I know back in the day you used to get kind of away with some crazy stuff that would not be great for the environment with regards to different even cleaning supplies and this, what is it, the carb cleaner and that kind of stuff and the wax and whatnot. So these days it's all benign, everything's been toned down, and I think the States is pretty at a pretty high level for the restrictions to make things, manufacture things. So I don't know, these are all guesses, but I can tell you it's tip of the hat for anyone that's tried, like Eric Buell, for so many times and so many years and so many permutations, and the man is just relentless, and he's been on the gas since I can remember. He's been around forever. And I don't know what he's going to do next, but I'm sure he's not going to sit on his hands, and all the best to him. And also everybody, all the best to everybody that's watching. And thank you for your interest in having Oana and I over into your homes while you're sitting on your asses in COVID-19. Some of us, most of us. I think some people are still working. But thanks for your interest in what we've done and what we're doing, and hope we've been able to answer some of your questions. And I guess we go back to drinking beer, and no, I'm not drinking a lot of beer right now. I'm trying not to, because otherwise we'll get really fat, because now we're really old. But anyway, thanks Jens and your assistant. You guys are putting on some really cool stuff, and I've enjoyed watching your videos and the breakdown of one of the race bikes that we had there, and I can't wait to hear it start, finally, right? You gotta start the bike. So yeah, cool. Thanks Oana. And my wife is saying, hold up the trophy. All right, well, this is the one trophy we did get as an American for first, but we got a lot of replicas, so I've given them all away but one to the crew, and I think John Dimblow's got a couple silver replicas and other people on the crew. So anyway, thanks for everybody in your interest in EBR, and I'm very proud to be a small part of it along the way. And let's keep on trucking, let's keep rolling and keep lifting the front wheel. And I still ride bikes on the streets every day. Most days I go out to the canyons and enjoy and stay fit and stay mentally. I think motorcycles are good for us in all ways, shapes, or form. They're very healthy, even though they're a little bit dangerous. That could be healthy too. Signing off, say goodbye, Oana.
Bye.
Thank you, Oana, for her help. And see ya. Bye.
Julia insists that I'm the sister. So just to clear that up, Julia is our head of construction and doing a lot of things from 3D printing over construction. So she dislikes the assistant, just to be fair to say that. Well, all over more than 135,000 bikes, Buells, are produced till today.
That is quite a lot.
So
you can't say that they were not a success.
No, you cannot say they have made everything wrong. And I would bet my ass off that today Harley Davidson would be super, super happy to have a running brand up what attracts the young riders, what is a little bit sporty, what is a little bit cool. When
just look at their new models, the Pan America and the, what was the Street Fighter thingy called again? I mean, they are just trying to do what Buell would have done now.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But not as good, not as cool, not as light, not as inspiring.
They're quite ugly and quite. They're running out of ideas.
Let's hope that Harley Davidson finally ramp up the production now and sees the light of the day on the end of the tunnel, and let's hope that this is not the incoming train. So, well, we see Indian try.
Yes.
With American-made motorcycles, and of course, an American-made motorcycle today is, like also the EBRs were or still are, an international-made bike. So
they have to be.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it is impossible.
Yes.
But also BMW is manufactured not completely in Berlin, Germany.
No, in Munich.
Yeah, that's the cars. The motorcycles are mounted in Berlin. Yeah. So I still think if one of the big players like Harley Davidson would understand in time where the train is going, they would have not made this really bad decision. And well, of course,
done is done. You're always smarter in hindsight.
Exactly, and we can be happy that Buell keep it running. At least that there are parts available, and we will see. Maybe one day somebody is coming and really put a new life in it. We still work on it. We still develop parts, and we will still continue to work with this brand and support the customers and the riders out there. Now we have the lab.
Yes.
Thanks, Mark. He gave us the full footage for full lap round the mountain course on Isle of Man, and that we look into it, and yeah, that is quite impressive.
So now 18 minutes and what was it? 19 seconds, I think.
Something like that. Throttle.
Have fun.
Throttle open and front wheel up. what an impressive ride.
Yeah.
When you see it on a big screen, you really have nearly no words. It's
like for me the worst is the sun and the shadows all the time. Like it's so, and it kind of, to me it feels like it's sped up. Like you cannot possibly be going that fast. But of course, I mean, it is for real. It is real time. But it feels so fast.
For me, the most scary moments are when you have this asphalt road work things where they just repaired a spot, and then he comes in there and you really think, okay, how is the traction there in this corner, and
and when the people are so close to the spectators, it's like why would you be standing exactly there? I mean, of course, great pictures and everything, but like, do you have a death wish when you stand exactly at the exit of the corner? So if the rider flies off, he's going to go there.
Well, there we are back on the question with the gladiators. The gladiator is nothing without the spectators in the Colosseum watching, the heroes.
Bread and games, huh?
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Julia. Thanks, Oana. Thanks, Mark. I think this was really great that you answered these questions that Mark and Oana, you as a pro was really helpful. It was really cool to have you involved. So at least there's something good on COVID-19.
Yeah, I was actually about to say that, like, the only positive thing coming out of this is, like, you actually had the time to sit down and do this really nice and cool interview with us.
The bad thing is that we promised to start up the bike, and again we will not do that.
Well, it's not our fault, it's Mark's fault.
Yeah, it's Mark's fault.
Yes,
it's all your fault, Mark.
Yes.
And originally it was the idea to make one, and then we said now was coming part 2, and then we said, okay, this is part 3 of 3. So now this was just for your information, part 3 of 4. So we will have another one next Friday, when we will, if nothing special happens till then, we'll start her up. And if you have questions, as Mark said, contact us by messenger or down in the text area under the video. And then in part 4 we will try to answer. Till then.
Thank God it's Friday and we made it another week again. And even if we're not starting her up this week, we will next week. Hopefully. Stay all safe. Yes. And thanks again all. Really great job all. Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye.